Welcome to How's Your Life Looking? I am Mariem Bennett, a mortgage lender serving Camden County and surrounding areas in Georgia and Florida. I help people with some of the biggest decisions, buying homes, but there is so much more into building a life. I like to bring some of the most amazing professionals that I meet on a daily basis, and we discuss everything from mental health to managing finances, empowering you for life decisions to help you design the life you deserve. Today, I'm joined by Kishan Patel, an independent insurance broker primarily serving Georgia, and we had an eye-opening conversation. I hope you find value in it. Enjoy! Kishan, thank you so much
for
joining me today.
Thanks for having me. This is awesome.
It's an honor. So Kishan and I, as you know, I'm the mortgage lender helping with the money, and Kishan helps our customers with their insurance, with homeowners insurance, car insurance, and he's an excellent agent. Kishan is local to our community, went to Camden County High School.
Yep.
He graduated from Camden County High School. Why don't you share with our audience who you are, what you do, and how you can serve them?
Sure. So yeah, like you said, I grew up here. My family moved here when I was 8 years old. So elementary to high school. Then I went to Georgia Southern, got a degree in finance, and did one finance job and hated it. Decided I wanted to work for myself. So I've been working for myself for about 12 years now. Started out in retail businesses, and then about 5 years ago, decided to make a career change, got into insurance, and that's when I opened my agency. So insurance agency is independent. We work with a bunch of carriers. We do home, auto, life, small business, basically anything you can think of, except health insurance.
And you do an amazing job with our customers. I want to tell you this. They always have options. They go with any insurance company they would like to work with. But when they do work with you, we have a great review, and I want to thank you personally that. So as you know, a member of the community, and both of us, and being immigrants to this country, I believe in serving. Mortgages is what I do, but not who I am, or my team, who we are. So I reach out to the community with some questions, and what they will ask if they were sitting in front of an insurance agent.
Awesome.
And I would like to share these questions with you and give us some responses that the community will be able to learn. And if they have any additional questions, they can always reach out to you.
Yeah, absolutely.
So in this one way of serving back and making them an educated consumer, so at the time of choosing their insurance carrier or policy, you know, they will be able to make a wise decision. So one of the things that I would like to ask is, what are the 3 myths about insurance that you like to debunk right now?
So the big ones these are the questions I get asked the most. If we're talking about auto insurance, somebody will say, I have full coverage. So full coverage is a myth. Nothing, if you get into an accident, doesn't mean you're 100% covered. So full coverage, what it basically means is I have coverage for my car, the other person's car, but there's limits to liability. So not everything would be covered. That's the big difference we try to educate our customers on. Home insurance, the big one we've seen so far is through the storm season. I'm not in a flood zone. I don't need flood insurance. Most of Camden County, they need flood insurance. So that's been the biggest learning process the last month and a half. And then, like I said, we sell life insurance as well. And we have a lot of families that, it's single, like one parent works, and the other's a stay at home. And a lot of the times they say, hey, I'm just a stay at home mom or a stay at home dad. I don't need life insurance. And that's a huge myth because, if something were to happen to you, your family, there's a big need that needs to be met. And we say, hey, no, everyone needs life insurance. And then back to the auto, hey, full coverage doesn't exist. Let me tell you what it really means. And then flood insurance. So we just try to educate it. It's a lot of that.
So I know there's a lot of noise now in the market about not able to get, insurance coverage while we are on active zone area of a hurricane season. Can you tell me how that affects you in your end while you get calls, so customers that need quotes or need coverage to be completed? How does it affect you on your end?
Yeah, so when we get into hurricane season, and if there's an active storm brewing, most of the insurance companies, small business carriers or home carriers, they'll put a bind moratorium on issuing new policies. So even if the storm's out there in the Gulf and we're here on the coast of Georgia, they'll put a bind moratorium until the storm's gone. And some of these storms, they're 2-3 weeks, like nonstop. And then they're like, after the storm's gone, they're assessing the damages. So it could be a month before you could even get insurance. And the last storm, Helene, was just like that. And some carriers just decided they're not going to write in Georgia anymore. So that's the risk you take if you wait till last second. Flood insurance is another part of that. Flood insurance, just through NFIP, is a 30-day waiting period. So even if you notice there's a storm a week out, you can get flood insurance, but it won't be active for 30 days. And then we have private flood options. It's 10-day waiting period. So those are the kind of time frames we're dealing with. So we try to get them, hey, maybe we think about it before storm season starts and let's get you covered and we have no worries, stuff like that.
And as you know, as a mortgage lender, when I'm doing their loan, if I don't have an insurance coverage on my asset that we going to be giving you finances on, we cannot close a transaction. So I give them an advice, but you're obviously the expert. Give me the one advice that you will give a home buyer today that's going through the process during hurricane season, which we already know when that is, that the buyer need to take action and when, so they cannot make a pause to their home buying process.
Yeah, so when we work with you, the mortgage lender, we're saying, hey, it'll be 30 days out, but let's get the binder put in place. The policy doesn't need to be paid for until closing, but let's get the policy put in place because this is what we're expecting. We're expecting a bind moratorium at some point. And then like in that process, when we're looking at the policy, we'll say, hey, these are your deductibles. There's 2 different deductibles. We live on the coast. There's a all other perils deductible that covers like wind and lightning, fire, lightning, theft, like that sort of stuff. And then there's a huge wind deductible, 2%, 3%, and this is of the home's value. So if you're buying a $300,000 house and you got a 2% wind deductible, your deductible is $6,000. So like a lot of customers didn't realize that until after they started filing these claims for these hurricanes, and it's a big sticker shock. My roof, it costs $10,000 and I only get $2-3 for it. So that's been a huge problem.
Correct. So when they are going through the process with us, we help them to guide them what is the next step to do. And if it's not our lane, I like to stay in our lane of finances. I always direct them to you as an insurance agent to advise them, or whether it's their attorney or real estate professional. Right. And one of the things we ask them to do is to compare apple to apple. Because you're paying $1,000 less in a policy does not mean that's best coverage for your need, right? So with that being said, what would be 3 things that you will encourage a homeowner or home buyer that is new to this thing of home ownership that they need to look while making the decision of a carrier? So
the deductible is the big one. That's the one we'll preach first, just so you know what you're going to get if something were to happen. The roof coverage, there's a difference. There's replacement cost on a roof. That'll cover, the full replacement of the actual roof or depreciated value. So if you're buying a house with a 10-year-old roof, just realize you're not going to get paid out the same as a replacement coverage would. And then your personal property. How much are you getting covered for your personal property? And then there's an endorsement for that. Is it at replacement cost? So if I had a 10-year-old TV, are they going to give me the money to buy a new TV or to buy a 10-year-old TV? Those are like the big 3 we talk about with every single home buyer.
And that's the same thing goes for insuring the property itself, the replacement cost versus cash value, correct? Can you give us a little bit more details about that?
So most lenders, I know Fairway will too, we need to cover it at replacement cost. So replacement cost meaning, hey, I bought a $300,000 house. If something were to happen and the complete loss of that house, insurance company theoretically gives you a check for $300,000 to rebuild. If it's depreciated, I mean, depends on the age of the house, all these things like how old's the roof, all this kind of stuff. So if you're looking at a $300,000 house and the payout's only 200 grand, you know, what do we do with the other 100 grand that's missing? So that's the big difference. And for the most part, we only write policies on replacement cost. There's a lot of corners you can cut. That's not the one we're going to cut. That's the big coverage. So
why paying an insurance that is not going to serve
Exactly.
you in the future,
Yep.
correct? And most of customers that will happen, they will go for the, like you say, the price, and then not looking into the fine prints, which having the right policy for your need when is needed.
Yep.
And that's what an insurance is. So thank you for clarifying that.
Yeah, of course.
Hope they take some notes for when you're shopping for your homeowner's insurance or car policy, any type of policies. You always truly need to compare apple to apple. Now, what common misconception do people have about homeowners insurance that could lead to gaps in their coverage, not only in the flood insurance, but also on the homeowners insurance when you actually need that coverage to happen?
Yeah, so the roof is a big one because what we're seeing more and more, the trend seems to be insurance companies are leaning towards doing appreciated or depreciation on roofs. So that's creating the biggest gap in insurance policies right now. There are a bunch of endorsements to policies, so like water backup or personal property replacement cost, and we're finding out like when these claims happen that people just aren't covered. The big insurance companies, for the most part, do a really good job covering people, but they say, hey, you didn't have this endorsement, so now you have to dig deeper into your policy. So that's a lot of it is like, hey, know what you're covered for. Yes, you're covered for the main house. There's a liability component, but what about all the other stuff?
Right.
So like, what about your own property? What about, hey, you got a shed on the property. What about that? Just everything. So it requires a more detailed look now than I think it probably did 5 years ago.
Right. So, and that's we've seen a lot lately due to this hurricane season, right? So a lot of people had been shocked with what they had that they thought they really were insured for.
Yep. What about my shed? We didn't know you had a shed.
Right.
I'm looking at the policy. Hopefully there was coverage for it.
Or
Yeah.
sometimes you just don't say it because you think it's let's cut corners to get that cheaper insurance. But do you really want to have coverage and peace of mind, or do you really want to save $5? Because in some cases, the differences we see
really
is very limited.
Yeah, it really is such a low difference too in the rate. But what you said, sticker value.
Sticker value. So that I have a question for you. Now,
Sure.
what is the most bizarre claim you've ever encountered in your career?
Bizarre? I haven't had too many bizarre ones, luckily. I'll tell you my first claim. This was right when I first started, so 5 years ago. First big claim, we had one of these random summer storms we get, and it was lightning. Lightning strikes our customer's house, blows a hole in the roof, and then, of course, it like rains after. So lightning comes down, a huge gaping hole in the roof, water comes all the way through, and it goes into the kitchen and appliances and all that. So my very first claim was like this $50,000, $60,000 claim, and you're nervous. I barely wrote 50 grand in business that whole year. So we're like, I hope I did this right. And the Travelers is one of my insurance carriers. Their claims rep was walking me through it, and he's like, no, you did everything good, man. But I was like, just shocked and nervous. I was like, I hope everything is good. And they did well. They paid them out. But that was the biggest dollar one, and it's been 5 years.
And that was painful. And that's probably that one is that made you grow and be an excellent agent because we don't go through the comfort zones.
I've talked to a lot of agents that have been doing this for a while, and they say you really you can't learn everything until it happens. Right. It's experience.
Just like college, right?
Yep. And any profession, but they're like, no, the experience is where you learn because you're going to see just crazy stuff happen year after year. But those experiences is what helps you learn.
Now, how often should homeowners review and update their insurance policies? What would be that recommendation that you will give to your parents to advise them about shopping and lowering the cost? Because at the end of the day, with the high cost of living that we all looking to save, and there are legitimate ways, I'm sure, to save, just like when you're shopping for grocery.
Yep.
What would you recommend? What would you
So
share with our
definitely,
agent?
I would definitely recommend reviewing every year. That's the easy answer. Big life changes is another reason. We try to review policies at least once a year, just in the middle of the term, just to say, hey, any additions to the house, like family members or actual additions to the house, we'll say, hey, please report that to us. But if you don't, we'll ask and we'll see if we need to adjust anything. To help adjust the price on policies, there's the deductible. If you can stomach paying a higher deductible, our all other perils start at $1,000. If you're not going to file a claim for $1,000, let's bump it up to $2,500 and see what it saves you. Personal property, some of these insurance policies will cover you up to hundreds of thousands of dollars for personal property. You might not have that much stuff, so
Right.
let's lower that. That's a way to save. So there's coverages that can be lowered and adjusted to fit more of your actual needs. And we ask those questions when we set up those policies, but things change. And hey, we've downsized. We've got rid of a bunch of stuff, so we want to lower our personal property cost. Or hey, we think we can afford a higher deductible. Let's raise that just to save a few $100 this year. So
How about making actually some upgrades to the house? Does it help? Besides the roof, which we know insurance companies love new roofs.
I was going to say, brand new roofs. The first two things we talk about when we set up a new policy is, hey, how old is the roof?
Right.
Madeline, your processor, will tell you. That's everything I ask her every time we get a quote request. So we'll ask about roof age, additions to the house, wiring, heating, the roof, plumbing is the four major ones. So if you made any updates to those, that's more favorable.
So wiring, plumbing,
heating.
and heating.
Yep. And then the roof. Yep.
So those are the four things that you want to check and update your insurance agents.
Yeah. A lot of the homes around here, that were built in the 70s and 80s have had updates, but they never either got reported or they don't show up on our Q Public with the permits and everything. So unless there's an actual inspection, and we have a lot of good inspectors here, but unless the inspector notes that it's been updated, we don't know. So if it's been done, give us proof and the insurance company will lower your rate.
So as you know, and just like you, I serve homeowners that are purchasing homes in Florida or Georgia. And one common thing that the home inspectors do in Florida in general is a 4-point inspection. And that's very helpful. For $75, I've seen actually buyers that were able to save a lot of money on homeowners insurance, because it's not you saving it one time, but you're saving it every year that you have to pay your premium. Is that something that maybe Georgia should be able to get on board and making it as a norm, or something that will help, that we tell our buyers in Georgia that they should do that?
I was going to say, most of your buyers have had inspections done on their house, and every time we get those inspection reports, they've come out more favorable on rating with our carriers. So we've seen some of the bigger carriers start asking for inspections instead of doing the inspection after binding now. Progressive's one. They will require, any homes over 5 years, they require an inspection report just on the coast here. And everyone you sent us, when they get the inspection done, they'll say, hey, actually, this house looks better than we thought it was going to look. We dropped the rate a couple $100.
Nice.
So it's going on. And I think the way of Florida doing 4-point inspection, I think Georgia's pretty close. I think we'll be there too with that requirement.
That's awesome. We try to, educate them based on what we know from other states to, bring it to Georgia and help them. And if we can help our buyers with their monthly mortgage payments, which the insurance is part of the mortgage payments, so we try to let them know. But I've noticed that it's not a norm. It's not a norm that an insurance agent will ask for that. And I'm glad to hear that it is actually helping them. The other thing I want to mention is flood insurance. Flood insurance, most of the, as you know, Camden County is entirety. I think we should have flood insurance. I should have some coverage of my own personal properties. Sometimes the premium is not that high for that peace of mind. And we've seen last month that has been an issue. What do you recommend on that?
So my house in Kingsland is not in a flood zone, but 2 hurricanes ago, the water was pretty pooled up and it was rising, and it really worried me. So even as the agent, I didn't have it, but then I immediately bought it, and
it costed you what, a couple $100?
$400 for the year. to cover the full house.
And
the
how many
contents.
gray hairs did you save of stressing?
I got a few.
No, how I have you too, but they're covered up. So
Yeah, no, this like complete peace of mind now because, like I said, the house is covered up to the full value. The contents are covered. So if something were to happen now, and I think back in the day, my house used to, like that area used to be in a flood zone. So that's the other thing. The flood zone map or the flood map gets updated every few years or so.
by FEMA,
Yeah.
and they will, make it or not make it anymore in a flood zone.
Technically not in a flood zone, but every time it rains, the water seems to collect pretty
It
fast.
looked like a flood and smelled like flood, so it is a flood.
Yep.
Regardless of what
Yep.
FEMA says, right, in our area.
And that's what you're saying. So like, if you're not in a flood zone, it is very cheap to get the flood insurance. Why not have that peace of mind for your house, the biggest investment you're going to have? Why not have that?
Cheaper than having 1 cup of Starbucks coffee every day.
Yep.
So one thing that I have encountered is with customers that they have car insurance and other type of insurances that they get actually discounts if they go with the same agency or carrier. Can you give us a little bit more points about that?
Sure. Yeah. Most of our carriers are home and auto carriers. So they want to keep you there. They want to have the home, the auto, the umbrella, everything in-house. They give really good discounts. And then a lot of the carriers we use, they have just like the loyalty discounts, like you start out at silver and go to gold and all that kind of stuff. So even our monoline carriers, so the ones that just write homeowners, they'll ask us, hey, is the auto insurance with your agency as well? If it is, we'll give you a discount. So we try to, if it's not the same home and auto carrier, at least as long as it's in our agency, we can get those discounts on.
So what that discount looks like?
Yep.
Is it like a military 10, 15%?
Yeah.
Depends where you go, or is it like a dollar amount, or is it a loyalty club?
I would say roughly it's like $150.
Oh, that's a very good savings.
Yeah, so we just did one home and auto with one of your customers, and they ended up, it was like $150 saved on both policies. So actually $300 altogether. So,
That's
yeah.
amazing.
Yeah.
That's good to know.
Yeah.
And now, so if anybody has any questions that we haven't answered, and I'm sorry, can't reach out to anybody, but would you come again and
Absolutely.
do this and answer some of additional questions
I'd love
that
to.
somebody may have?
Yeah.
But if they have any questions and they would like to ask you directly, would you share the contact information, your website, cell phone?
So website is treehouseins.com. Phone number is 912-439-3128. And then you can get me at my personal email. It's Kishan, Kishan, at treehouseins.com.
That's amazing. Thank you so much for joining me.
Thanks for having
And looking forward to more business together.
Of course.
Thanks for tuning in. If you like the chat, share with someone who might find value in it, whether they're looking for life advice or they're going through the home buying process. If you or anyone you know are looking to buy a home, I'd love to guide you through the journey. See you next time.